In this life, I am reminded of many things, but this always shocks me for some reason. I don't even know why. Now, white women can cry, and their tears are very, very powerful. The way that they can carry victimhood on their heads, and people will literally break their backs to comfort them and make them feel protected, is something that I find fascinating. When I cry, I get told, you're mentally unstable, you're crazy, you're reading into this a bit too much, love, you're being dramatic. But let a white woman cry, ooh, the power that holds. I would just like to know, where can I buy that from? Because I too would like to weaponize my tears and profit off of it monetarily.
From history to the present, Whyte Woman Tears have played a crucial role in shaping racial dynamics, often at the expense of Black community. But what exactly does this term mean, and why does it hold so much power? Watch and pay attention, and I'll share my thought later.
Are Black people gonna ever be safe from white women tears?
No.
No. My enemy of progress is Michelle Bishop. She has gone viral because allegedly she racially profiled this guy who lives in her neighborhood.
Do you live here? Yeah. You do? Papa. I don't believe that. What? I don't believe that.
So what are you doing?
Boy, come on.
But you didn't say, this is my home. You just said, are you looking?
I did. When you was on the porch, you asked me, did I live here? I said, yeah. And you said, I don't think you do.
They only released the footage because she went onto her IG crying and saying, yeah, she
Did I overreact? Yeah, maybe a little bit. I don't know how it could be twisted that way when I literally thought he was a white man.
that she can't be racist because she thought he was white. Shut up.
You guys have ever had white women tear situations?
Have I been a victim of white women tears?
She was doing white women tears. She was really doing tears. So I started crying too.
That's
we
the
can
way.
both cry.
Black women need to cry.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, we can both cry.
Turn it off.
White women are often dangerous perpetrators of anti-Blackness. Many see themselves as exempt from perpetuating violence because of their womanhood. However, many white women use this femininity to cause problems for Black individuals. When thinking and talking about Whyte Woman Tears, Dr. Moya Bailey's Misogynoir Transformed, and the essay Mammies, Matriarchs, and Other Controlling Images by Dr. Patricia Hill Collins are helpful reads. The concept of Whyte Woman Tears is convoluted because it's layered. One must reflect on the historical context, the racial context, and the gender context, as well as how these three work together to create unique violence against Black people. If you are in a situation where you as a white person feel threatened, interrogate that feeling and ask yourself where it's coming from. Are you really being threatened, or are you being held accountable and it's uncomfortable? Emotion regulation is anti-racist work. If you cannot regulate your emotions, you don't have the capacity to hear the stories of other people, specifically people of color.
Most of us are moved by white tears because we don't actually think they're real. It's a performance. It's a switch that you turn on because you know that we have been socialized to see you as more human and of more value. So whatever it is you think and whatever it is you feel, we are supposed to respond to it. Y'all don't respond to Black women crying the same way. Nobody does. Nobody does. The minute a white woman cries, the world has to stop. Oh my God, what's wrong with you, baby? Black women cry, we could be rolling around on the ground screaming. And you are moved because you've been socialized not to see us as human beings. Fuck. Our tears don't matter to you, but a white woman, and y'all know that shit. That's why I'm not here for the fragility. You know that. And so you very deliberately turn the shit on as a way to avoid accountability. Purposefully. That's not fragility. That's manipulation. That's strategic. That's diabolical. That's not fragility. And so this notion of white fragility is supposed to tell us what? We're supposed to let you off the hook because you can't handle it? No, you don't want to. And every time we hold your feet to the fire, all of a sudden, Emmett, God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. You didn't have to know. And now that I'm trying to make you know, you want to cry so we can end the conversation.
It's the first time I'm crying in a press conference. I thought you're...
Would you like for me to explain to you the function of Whyte Woman Tears using semiotic theory? I'm gonna do it anyways. I don't care what you say. So, semiotics is the study of signs and symbols and their use or interpretation. This can include a whole myriad of things. Visual, auditory, what have you. To explain semiotic theory, we first have to explain what a sign is. So signs and symbols are different. Signs are like a one-to-one. For instance, if I show you a lighter, what I mean is a lighter. If I show you a cookie, what I mean is a cookie. I'm not implying any meaning beyond what it is. It's like saying 1 equals 1. It is what it is. So once you pair a sign with a precise context, then it creates a desired meaning, which then elicits an intended response. This is one of the basics of how communication works. So again, using the sign of the lighter, if I showed you a lighter, and the context is that you're standing outside of a building with a cigarette in your hand, and in that moment, the designed meaning could be that I'm offering you this lighter. And the intended response from you would be to take it from me and use it. Let's use words to illustrate this, right? So if I say it's sunny outside, and the context is that it's warm outside, the sun is shining, you can see light all over my face, then the design meaning of that phrase is me just making an observation. And the response from you might be just nodding, just acknowledging. Here's what Whyte Tears does. Let's use the same phrase. If I say to you, it's sunny outside, and we have the same context. It's bright outside, it's warm, the sun is shining down on our faces. I'm still making an observation. But what if you responded by crying? That would be so out of left field, something in this process got mixed up. You can't change the sign because the sign is still a one-to-one. The sun is still the sun. But what people forget is that context is variable depending on experience. Oftentimes cultural knowledge. So what if I said it was sunny outside, but I'm a traveler, and I didn't know that there's like this 20-year drought where I'm traveling to. But I didn't know that, right? So you crying would make perfect sense in that moment. What Whyte Tears seeks to do is recontextualize the reading of the communication itself. Because everybody saw what happened on that tennis court. There's no pretending that what happened on that court did not happen at all. It was televised. There was an audience. The sign is the sign. Her actions were her actions. But by responding in the way that she is doing, she is calling into question the precise context under which those signs were interpreted. Because while much of the public read her actions, the signs, as racist in the context of that match with Coco Gauff, she has to manipulate the circumstances under which those signs were read. And white privilege itself allows white people to not have the exact or precise cultural context for the things that they are reading. So that when they see her crying, they look for a different context as to why she is crying. And that is Whyte Woman Tears explained by semiotic theory. That was fun. I had fun.
I want to talk about Whyte Woman Tears, or just Whyte Tears. I was involved with the show not too long ago, and there was this controversy of white production people saying like things that were perceived as racist. And upon addressing it, one of the white women involved started crying. She felt very guilty and ashamed of what people had heard versus what she meant to say. But you might look at that and think, okay, well, how can you help but cry in that moment? If you're very embarrassed and ashamed, it seems like it's a natural thing to do to cry. But I want you to stop and ask yourself, if you knew that when people saw you crying for whatever reason, if you were certain that it would have the negative effect, that people would perceive you even worse, would you still do it? Because although it is an emotional moment, and I know it's hard to like fabricate tears from nothing, there comes a time in that where things turn, and this is no longer I'm sad that I did something wrong, but it turns into a tactic to get people to feel sorry for you and not perceive you as that bad of a person, when in reality you really need to be held accountable for the things you said.
There's been a great conversation on here that I've been following about Whyte Woman Tears, and I keep seeing white autistic females coming in and saying, oh, like I don't do that because I'm autistic. And let's have a conversation. I know that we're all like very literal thinkers, but Whyte Woman Tears goes way beyond like someone purposely crying to like get their way in a situation. It's about how everyone in society, especially men, are conditioned to react and respond to white women's feelings. And feelings can mean anything. It's not just crying. And I would argue as white autistic women, we are more dangerous in these situations. From analyzing myself and my own behavior, I can think of like two main reasons why we are more dangerous. The first one being that autistics just struggle to read situations, and I myself often don't understand like power dynamics or like undertones of situations, and just by agreeing with someone or reacting in any sort of way can set a whole situation off that you didn't understand was happening. And the second one being that autistic people struggle to regulate their facial expressions and their emotions. And having your emotions on display in public creates a situation that could potentially be dangerous for someone else. And you might be sitting here saying, well, like those are things out of my control. Like I'm autistic. And to that, I say that's just not a valid excuse. Like, I'm sorry. Because there are so many autistic people of color that are forced to mask those expressions and figure out situations for their own safety. Therefore, you should be putting in as much effort as possible to also be doing that to keep them safe. After I had this whole like little thought process that I had based off of this conversation, and I'll tag videos down below of like people talking about this. But once I got to this place of like understanding like my presence and like the whole dynamic, I was like, okay, so how do I make sure that I'm not creating situations or like adding flame to the fire in situations? And I thought for my second point of how like we can't control our expressions or our emotions sometimes, and an easy solution to that is to just leave the situation, remove yourself, therefore you are not creating a situation. But for my first point of not understanding situations and accidentally like adding flame to the fire, that's where I want to like open this up, because I'm struggling to figure out how to go about that. I know that I have really good pattern recognition, and that if I understand more, that I will be able to say, oh, that's a pattern, oh, I see what's happening, but I don't know every single pattern. What I've kind of like decided on doing is that to understand like patterns and stuff, to just make sure that I am actively listening and paying attention to every conversation and all people of color and their experiences, so that I can categorize that in my brain as like, okay, their experience, I need to log that as a pattern.
The weaponization of Whyte Woman Tears is not new. It has a deep historical root. One of the most infamous examples is the case of Emmett Till, a 14-year-old black boy, lynched in 1955 after a white woman, Carolyn Bryant, forcefully accused him of inappropriate behavior. Cases like these have repeatedly shown how white women's emotion can spark deadly consequences for black people. In today's digital age, we see countless examples of current incidents where white women use their perceived victimhood to call law enforcement on black people for simply existing in public spaces. From BIack to Central Park Karen, these moments reinforce systemic racism and expose the dangerous consequences of white fragility. Whyte Woman Tears are not just about emotions. They uphold structural racism by shifting sympathy away from black individuals to white women. These manipulative tactics often lead to harsher policing of black people and societal reinforcement on white innocence. For black communities, Whyte Woman Tears are not just frustrating, they are life-threatening. The fear of being forcefully accused or over-policed has led to generational trauma and deep mistrust in legal and social institutions. So, what can be done? Awareness is key, but action is essential. Calling out performative victimhood, holding individuals accountable, and educating people on racial dynamics are steps towards change. White allies must acknowledge their privilege and use it responsibly. And there you have it, guys. Kindly like this video and share your thoughts in the comment box below. Until next time, cheers and have a good one.